Today I'm going to be talking about my pick for album of the month in July of 2021, which I thought would be as obvious as my previous one, because it was the most anticipated album to come out in July, and by one of the most popular hip-hop artists today, releasing a highly anticipated album, Isaiah Rashad's The House is Burning. All teasing aside, it has been a substantial amount of time since Isaiah Rashad has dropped an album and dropped songs of his own, because of the 5-year gap between this and his previous album, The Sun's Triad. So this was an album I was looking forward to, because The Sun's Triad was this incredibly hazy and druggy hip-hop album that infused so many different R&B elements and hip-hop, while still having incredibly good lyricism and good rapping alongside it. We now see the follow-up to that with The House is Burning, which in some ways is a disappointment, because despite the fact that it has the same amount of songs as The Sun's Triad, the songs on The House is Burning are far less substantial than on The Sun's Triad. And it doesn't really have much to say, honestly, because a lot like the previous album I talked about in June, which was Tyler, the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, which had the same problem of good production, good rapping, not a lot of substance, not a lot interesting going on for it. Still thoroughly enjoyable, but a very substanceless experience, and feels like a deviation from their previous work, and a step back from it as well. And I'll get to that. Some songs feel like they're straight up trying to recreate what he did on The Sun's Triad, like the opening track, Dark Seed, which still continues that incredibly hazy, druggy sound, but not starting up something interesting in a conversation. But that leads us to From the Garden, which subverts the opening track by being a Lil Uzi Vert song. Is that a bad thing? No, it's actually a pretty good song. But it still feels like Lil Uzi Vert taking over that song. And Isaiah Rashad feels less like the original artist and more like the feature. But that's the only song that feels like it. He doesn't have Gorillaz syndrome just yet. Another thing this song brings up is how more modern, not just from its features, like a big artist like Lil Uzi Vert and J-Rock. It makes it feel like he's chasing after that ideal of being a modern hip-hop artist and still kind of infusing it with his hazy style that he had on The Sun's Triad. But it really doesn't work, because it loses its lyrical substance, and it loses a lot in terms of production as well. The production is good, like I stated in the opening. It feels more trend-chasing than the uniqueness that was on The Sun's Triad. Although there are points where he does get a lot more heady and hazier, like on All Herb, and he also gets more conscious, like on songs like Don't Shoot. He's missing crucial elements that made his previous work. That's what I got out of this. It didn't have a lot going on for it when comparing it to his previous work. I'd recommend you listen to The Sun's Tirade over this album, but this album is still good. It'll probably go down as one of the better modern hip-hop albums, and because it still has some haziness and some incredibly well done rapping by him and all of his features. So I do think this is genuinely worth a listen, and I'm going to give this album a 7.5 out of 10. What did you think of this album? Do you think I'm just killing time until Donda drops? Well, it's not gonna drop, so big whoop. I'll see you guys in the next time.